Welcome. Please comment where you're watching from in the world. Back in 2019, a few months after a breakup that left me feeling like chewed up gum on a sidewalk, I did the thing all my friends told me not to overthink. I downloaded Tinder. I was 18, a freshman in a Midwestern college town where the biggest nightlife options were the Walmart, the campus library, and 3 sad bars that all smelled like cheap beer and Axe body spray. I was shy, not the kind of girl who casually meets people at parties. So Tinder felt safer in a way. Distant. Filtered. You can always just swipe left, right? At first it was just dumb fun. A couple of matches, some cringy pickup lines, guys whose bios were just height and emojis. Nothing stuck. Then I matched with him. He was 21, local, and honestly one of the most attractive guys I'd ever seen in real life, let alone matched with. Dark hair, jawline, that I lift but pretend it's casual kind of body. His messages were really sweet at first. Lots of "you're so cute," and "you seem different from other girls" stuff. He used tons of emojis and double exclamation marks. It made my phone light up feel exciting instead of annoying. We moved to Snapchat pretty quickly. He'd send goofy selfies, good morning snaps, songs that reminded him of me after like 3 days. He was intense, but in the beginning it just felt flattering. When he asked me to be his girlfriend after about a month of dates, movies, late night drives, frozen yogurt runs, I said yes. For about 2 weeks, it was fine. Normal. I told myself I was finally having that college relationship everyone talks about. Then his mood shifted. It started small. We'd be in the middle of a conversation, and he'd just stop responding. Not the normal on his phone scrolling TikTok silence, but this dead, heavy quiet where he'd stare straight ahead, jaw clenched, like I wasn't even in the room. I'd ask, "Hey, are you okay?" and get nothing. I'd ask again and he'd sigh, this irritated, dramatic sound like I'd just asked him for a kidney. One time, when I nudged his arm lightly, he slammed the bedroom door so hard the frame rattled, grabbed his keys, and left without a word. Came back an hour later acting like nothing happened. Anytime I tried to talk about it, he'd flip it on me. "You're overthinking again. Why are you so dramatic? You're making problems out of nothing." He started doing this thing where he would joke about what I wore. "You're really going out in that? Do you want guys staring at you or something? I just don't want other dudes getting the wrong idea." If I mentioned a male friend from class, his whole body went stiff. "So how long have you liked him?" he'd ask, smiling, but not really smiling. It got worse when we were in the car. If someone cut him off, he'd gun the engine, ride their bumper, mutter under his breath. If he was annoyed with me, if I disagreed with him about something stupid like a movie, he'd speed up, fingers locked around the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the road with this flat, mean look. I'd laugh it off and say, "Okay, Fast and Furious, chill," but my hands would be pressed into my thighs, nails digging into my jeans. The night everything snapped, we were supposed to go to dinner downtown. It was already dark, one of those Midwest nights where the air is damp and the streetlights make everything look yellow. We were talking about something small, nothing serious. I said something like, "Maybe after dinner we can grab ice cream," and in the middle of replying, he just stopped. Sentence cut in half. Silence. My stomach did that slow roll it always did when he went quiet. I tried gently. "Hey, did I say something wrong?" Nothing. He took the next turn into a multi-level parking garage instead of the restaurant street, tires squealing just a little. The concrete swallowed the sound of the engine. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead in that buzzing, hospital way. The air smelled like oil and damp cement. He parked crooked in an empty section and just sat there, hands still on the wheel, staring straight ahead. "Can you please tell me what's wrong?" I tried again, my voice sounding way smaller than I wanted it to. That's when he snapped his head toward me and shouted from nowhere, "Will you just shut the hell up?" It was so loud and sudden in that echoing concrete box that my whole body froze. For a few seconds, I couldn't even feel my hands. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it over the buzzing lights. In that moment, something in my brain just clicked. Like a switch flipped from, "maybe it's my fault," to "nope, this is not safe." I don't even remember my exact words, something like, "Okay, we're done." My voice was shaking, but I said it anyway. I picked up my bag with numb fingers, opened the door, and got out. I half expected him to grab my arm, to slam the door shut, to block my way, but he just stared at the windshield like I was a radio he'd turned off. Walking away from that car felt like wading through syrup. My legs were rubbery. The garage was suddenly enormous, each footstep echoing way too loudly. I headed for the exit sign as fast as I could without breaking into a run. Once I hit the sidewalk, I practically speedwalked to the first coffee shop I saw, hands shaking as I ordered some random drink I didn't even want. I sat in the corner by the window and called an Uber with my straw still in its wrapper. By the time I got home, my phone showed multiple missed calls from him and a streak of Snapchat notifications. I blocked him on everything: Snap, Instagram, his number. I felt guilty, nauseous, relieved, and terrified all at once. But I also knew, if he could talk to me like that, completely unprovoked, he was capable of a lot worse. About a week later, once the initial adrenaline wore off, the humiliation set in. I felt so stupid. How did I not see the red flags? I finally told a close friend, someone who'd never met him, what had happened. I softened the worst parts, called him intense instead of scary, laughed in the middle so I wouldn't cry. A few nights after that, she texted me a screenshot. It was an Instagram DM from an account she didn't follow. His username, his profile picture, his message. "Hey, I'm sorry to meet like this, but your friend is ignoring me and I need to talk to her." My heart dropped into my shoes. I messaged every friend in my contacts, one by one, explaining that we'd broken up and that he was not to get any information about me. I asked them to block him. I hated how dramatic I sounded, but there it was. Then the burner account started. Blank profiles. No pictures, no posts. Usernames with random numbers. "Hey, why are you ignoring me? We need to talk. You're overreacting. I'm worried about you." The writing style gave him away instantly. The overpunctuation, the random capital letters, the guilt trips. He'd send these long, breathless paragraphs about how he was just trying to fix things, and how I owed him a conversation after everything we'd been through. 1 month. Finally, against my better judgment, I replied to one. I told him it was over, that I didn't want to speak to him again, that contacting my friends was not okay, that he needed to stop. Then I blocked that account, and the next, and the next. Weeks went by. No messages, no calls. I started to breathe again. I told myself he'd gotten bored and moved on. I met Taylor in a dim green glow. It was 2003, I was 21, living alone in a tiny flat in Manchester, and spending far too many nights hunched over a beige PC with a whirring CRT and an ashtray full of half-smoked Raleighs. IRC was my social life. I knew full well that half the girls in those channels were probably bored blokes in their 40s, but the old internet felt like a secret world, and I was lonely enough not to care. Then came her. Her username was the title of some emo song with XS and numbers bolted on. She said her name was Taylor, 22, from London. Dyed black hair, blue eyes, facial piercings, lived in black band tees and smudged eyeliner. She was exactly the kind of girl I used to daydream about while fixing printers at my IT help desk job. We slid from group chat into private messages without me quite noticing when it happened. One night we were arguing about which band was better. 2 weeks later we were talking every evening, swapping stupid in-jokes and half-serious, "I wish you were here" fantasies. It was all PG-13, but for me it felt huge. We even did the old-school verification thing. Date and time scrawled on our hands in marker, usernames written across our knuckles, one eye covered. Grainy webcam shots, badly lit but real. I sent mine from my cramped bedroom. She sent one from a cluttered kitchen with chipped black nail polish and a smirk that made my stomach flip. We dated, like that, for 3 months almost exactly. Then she vanished. No more logins, no more messages in the channel, no replies to my emails. At first I thought it was a dodgy modem, then maybe I'd said something wrong. Then I started quietly panicking. I kept sending late-night emails, half pathetic, half hopeful. "You okay? Did I mess something up? Just say something, yeah?" 2 weeks of silence. Then one night, just as I was about to shut the PC down, an email popped up. "Hey, hop on IRC." My heart actually stuttered. I launched mrnightmare, so fast the machine froze for a second. She was there. Same username, same color text, like she'd never left. "Hey," she typed. "Are you okay? Where have you been?" I wrote back, fingers shaking. She ignored it. What's your address? I want to send you something." That should have been a red flag. But it was 2003, and I was an idiot in love. Nobody talked about doxing or stalkers back then. Strangers on the internet felt more real to me than my coworkers. So I gave it to her, number, street, postcode, the lot. A few seconds later, the reply came. "This is Taylor's husband. Stop messaging my girl, or else you'll be next." Just that. No emojis, no typos, no LOLJK. I stared at the screen, the hum of the CRT suddenly deafening. I typed back something pathetic about us just being friends, about not knowing she was married. There was no reply. The username logged out and never came back. I barely slept that night. For a few days I jumped every time the letterbox snapped. Eventually life dragged on. Calls from angry users, lukewarm Tesco ready meals, late buses in the rain. I told myself he was just some jealous bloke bluffing behind a keyboard. 2 weeks later a small cardboard box turned up, no return address, just Taylor, scrawled in familiar messy handwriting in the corner. I stood in my hallway for a long time, just holding it. It was light. No ticking, no weird smell. My brain swung between its nothing and it's a bomb like a broken metronome. In the end, curiosity and stupidity won. I carried it to the kitchen, got a knife, slit the tape, and pushed aside the crumpled newspaper stuffing. There, at the bottom, was another knife. A plain kitchen knife, heavy stainless steel. The blade was coated in something dark and crusted, a reddish-brown smear that flaked at the edges when I nudged it with the cardboard. I dropped the whole box like it burned. Up close, it didn't look like paint. Didn't look like rust. It looked like dried blood. My first instinct was to fling it all in the bin and pretend it never happened, but the second thought, louder, colder, was if this is real, and my fingerprints end up on it, I'm screwed. So I washed my hands 3 times even though I hadn't touched the blade, picked up the phone, and rang the police. Trying to explain IRC to a uniformed officer in 2003 was surreal. He stood in my cluttered front room while I mumbled about chat rooms and usernames and a girl with black hair I'd never actually met. They took the knife, took my statement, asked if I had any other details. I had a first name, a handle, an email address, and a blurry webcam photo. They said they'd look into it. I'd just been dumped when this happened, properly nuked from orbit. My ex took half her stuff and all of my self-esteem when she walked out of our share house in Newtown. For about a week I just lay there in my unmade bed, scrolling, eating soggy chips, staring at the blue glow of my phone like it might apologize on her behalf. Then my mate Jace rocked up with beers and wisdom. "Bro, you don't need therapy," he said. "You just need to get laid." Terrible advice, obviously, but I was sad and stupid enough to listen. So that night at like 2 a.m., with the kitchen light buzzing and the house quiet, I downloaded Tinder. I threw together the most tragic profile you've ever seen, blurry pics, one where my hair looked half decent, and my dog Marco doing all the heavy lifting. For a while nothing. Left. I was about to delete the whole thing when my phone buzzed. "You have a match with Emily." She was insane. Long dirty blonde hair, green eyes, that soft Instagram lighting that makes you feel poor just looking at it. Way out of my league. I stared at her profile, assuming it was a glitch, when she messaged first. "Hey winking face with dung. Your dog is so cute. What's his name?" We started chatting. She was flirty, straight to the point, and kept calling me pretty boy, which like no one has ever done in my life. There were little odd things. Her grammar slipped sometimes, like someone trying too hard to sound casual. She refused to video call, said her front camera was cracked to hell. She joked about me bringing cash for drinks. Red flags, yeah. But she kept saying how badly she wanted to blow off steam, and I kept thinking about my ex posting stories with some new guy already. After 2 days of talking, she sent the message. "Let's just meet up. Hotel is easier, zero drama." She gave me the name of a cheap place out near the airport. Classy. I told myself it was just a hookup spot, nothing more. On the night, I showered, shaved, drowned myself in cologne, and changed outfits 3 times. My hands were sweaty on the steering wheel the whole drive. The hotel was worse than I imagined. Yellowed sign, flickering lights, reception guy who didn't even look up from his phone when I walked past. Her room number was on the 2nd floor. The hallway smelled like bleach and cigarettes. I stopped at the door, took a breath, and knocked. Nothing. I waited, knocked again. Sent a text. "Hey, I'm here." No reply. I started to feel like an idiot. Maybe she'd bailed. Maybe it was a prank. After 10 minutes of standing there, listening to the buzzing light, I decided to call. Her ringtone started playing on the other side of the door. Every hair on my arms lifted. I knocked harder. "Emily?" The handle jerked. The door flew open halfway, and this massive hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. Not a girl's hand. Thick, rough, calloused. I saw a man's face in the dark behind the chain, just long enough to know he was smiling. I didn't think. I yanked back and slammed my shoulder into the door. It crushed his wrist between the frame and the wood. He screamed, this high, furious sound, and loosened his grip. I ran. I didn't even wait for the lift. I launched myself into the stairwell, taking steps 3 at a time. Halfway down, I risked a look back through the metal rails. 3 guys were spilling out of the corridor, running for the stairs. Adrenaline turned everything weirdly slow. My heart was hammering so loud it felt like it was in my throat. I hit the ground floor, burst through the fire door, blasted past the reception desk without looking at anyone, and fumbled my keys all the way to my car. I got in, locked the doors, and only then realized I was shaking so hard the keys rattled in the ignition. I didn't look back to see if they were following. I just drove. By the time I got home, my ears were still ringing. I sat in the dark in the driveway, opened Tinder, and deleted my account without thinking. I still don't know what exactly they wanted, my wallet, my car, me. But every time I see a profile that looks too perfect, I think of that cheap hallway, that ringing phone behind the door, and that hand on my wrist. Dating has always felt like trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the instructions. Technically possible, but I will cry at some point. I thought coming out as a lesbian would fix that. Like, okay, cool, I finally know what aisle I should be shopping in, right? Wrong. Turned out every woman I was into was either straight, curious but not like that, or dating a man named Tyler who played the ukulele. After my last crush told me I was such a great friend, while cuddling her boyfriend at Sneaky D's, I finally caved and downloaded Zoe, this lesbian dating app. Women looking for women. No guesswork. No, so do you have a boyfriend? Over drinks. It was kind of amazing. Queer women everywhere. Bisexual, pan, masc, femme, all of it. It felt like someone had lifted a rock and shown me there were actually people who might want me back. That's where I met her. Her name was Lena on the app. Her bio said she was 27, into horror movies, ramen, and girls with good eyebrows. Her pictures were exactly my type. Soft but confident, dark hair, septum ring, wearing big sweaters that looked like they smelled like expensive detergent. She lived one town over, just outside Toronto. She messaged me first. Hey, smiling face with smiling eyes. That eyeliner is doing the Lord's work. Immediately my brain, which eyeliner? Is it crooked? Do I look like a raccoon? But we started chatting. She was bold, flirty, and genuinely funny. Like send screenshots to your friends funny. She called me cutie a lot, which did devastating things to my already fragile heart. We texted for about a week. She dodged video calls, said her front camera was cracked, which sure okay. She answered quickly, then sometimes vanished for hours. Her typing style changed slightly sometimes, like someone else had taken over the texting. I noticed it, then politely gaslit myself. You're overthinking. Again. Classic. Eventually, she asked if I wanted to meet. Want to grab dinner? There's this cute little place in my town Eyes. Of course I said yes. I spent way too long picking an outfit that said, I tried, but I'm chill. Black jeans, boots, oversized sweater, my good jacket. I spent even longer doing my eyeliner, which naturally came out uneven. Classic. I drove out just as the sun was going down, Toronto skyline in the rear view, that cold, damp air that gets into your bones. The restaurant was small, tucked between a laundromat and a vape shop. Very queer vibes. Inside, it was quiet. A family of 4 near the door, kids coloring on paper menus. A lone guy in the corner, hunched over his phone. The bell above the door chimed when I walked in, and the guy looked up. He didn't just look. He stared. I told the server I was meeting someone, and picked a table with a good view of the door. Then I sat there, doing my favorite activity, spiraling internally. I checked my phone. No new messages. I opened Zoe. Me, hey. I'm here, smiling face with smiling eyes. Message read 6:12 p.m. No reply. My brain immediately split into 2 people. Rational me, traffic happens. She's probably parking. Anxious me, you're being stood up in a strip mall restaurant next to a vape shop, congrats. I fiddled with my napkin, adjusted my hair, checked my eyeliner in the black screen of my phone. The man in the corner was still looking at me in those little glances people think are subtle. He'd looked down at his phone, then up at me again. His clothes were weirdly familiar. Dark sweater, beanie, the kind of slightly androgynous look you'd expect from a queer woman trying to pass as casual. My stomach tightened. 10 more minutes. Still nothing. I finally decided to call her. Just to check. I hit the call button, held the phone to my ear. The restaurant door chimed softly as another couple came in. And then, from the corner of the room, a phone started ringing. Same ringtone. The man in the corner flinched. He fumbled with his phone, eyes wide, and slammed his thumb on the screen. On mine, the call cut off, call declined. For a second, everything went very, very quiet in my head. He looked up at me. I was already staring at him. His lock screen flashed just long enough for me to see a vaguely feminine anime avatar and a pink case with a cutesy sticker on it. Exactly the kind of thing Lena would have. My body reacted before my brain did. I smiled tightly at the server, mumbled something like, "Actually, I've got to go, sorry," and grabbed my bag. My hands were shaking. I tried to walk, not run, to the door. The bell chimed again as I pushed out into the cold air. Then I heard it. "Hey, my name." His shoes slapped against the sidewalk as he jogged after me. My keys were already in my hand. I half speed-walked, half ran to my car, unlocked it, slid in, and slammed the door shut. I hit the lock button 3 times like it would somehow make it more locked. He reached my car just as I started the engine, still saying my name like we were old friends. I didn't look at him. I put the car in reverse, backed out of the spot way too fast, and drove off, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I pulled over 2 blocks away just to breathe. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped my phone. On Zoe, I blocked Lena, without a second thought. I didn't delete the app, though. I was 17, awkward, and in love with an elf. Okay, technically she was a human mage, but still. Most of my free time that year was spent either grinding quests in a big MMO or lurking on its German fan forum instead of doing homework. Real people in my class made me sweat. Forum people were easier. You can't see someone rolling their eyes through a screen. That's where I met Amanda. Her username was something emo with numbers, but in DM she said her name was Amanda, 17, from somewhere in the US. We started talking about the game, builds, loot drops, which raid leaders were tyrants, and somehow it turned into talking about everything. We had the same taste in music, same black humor, same "I hate people but I'm lonely" energy. She wrote long emails about feeling watched, about systems of control. She refused to get Facebook because apparently everyone on there is on a list. I joked that our government had better things to do than stalk some random teenager from Berlin who spent his evenings wiping in dungeons. She'd reply with weird phrases like, "You're too innocent, you don't see the cameras in the walls." Her English was good but off. Sometimes she'd say things like, "I'm gonna hit the haystack," or "That really cooks my noodle," which sounded like someone trying to imitate American slang and missing slightly. Her timestamps were weird too. She'd claim it was late afternoon where she was when it was obviously nighttime for any US time zone. I noticed it. Then, because I wanted it to be real, I decided it didn't matter. After a couple of weeks of constant emailing, she wrote, "I'm really falling for you. I need to know what my Prince Charming looks like, Blackheart." No one had ever said anything like that to me. My heart did this stupid jump. I stole my dad's old digital camera and took the most 2008 MySpace selfie you can imagine. Arms stretched out, slight down angle, trying to flex non-existent muscles, band poster visible over my shoulder. I sent it, mortified. She replied with a wall of compliments. "You're perfect. I'm in love with you already." Hearts and dramatic ASCII art. She described herself in return. Same age, long dark hair, green eyes, skinny jeans, band tees. I asked for a photo. She dodged it. "I hate cameras. They steal parts of your soul. You don't want that, right?" Red flag, but I painted it a nice color and called it quirky. We dated like that for a few more weeks. Longer emails, more intense. She talked about wanting to visit Europe after she finished school. Sometimes she signed off with "soon kiss mark," which I assumed was just romantic nonsense. Then one Monday, she just stopped replying. No more emails. No more forum posts. Her account went quiet. At first I panicked, then I sulked, and then slowly, I just got used to not having 3-page emails waiting for me after school. I told myself she'd gotten bored, found someone cooler, or died in some dramatic accident. My brain likes extremes. A few weeks later, on a gray Saturday afternoon, I was home alone playing the MMO in our tiny Berlin flat. My dad was at work. The neighbors were arguing through the wall. Everything was very normal. Someone knocked on the door. Not the impatient postman knock. Polite. 2 times with a pause. I paused my game, pulled off my headset, and went to the door. Our apartment building is one of those concrete blocks where you can hear every footstep in the stairwell, but I hadn't heard anyone come up. Weird. I opened it. There was a man standing there. Middle-aged, overweight, bald on top with greasy hair at the sides. Sweat beading on his forehead, like he'd run up the stairs. He smelled like old aftershave and train stations. His face lit up when he saw me. My name, he squealed in German, but with this strange, breathy enthusiasm. Oh mein Gott, it's really you. I just stared at him. My mouth said the obvious. Do we know each other? He smiled wider, this excited, shivery smile that showed too many teeth. It's me, he said. I'm Amanda. My brain did this horrible lurching step where it tried to put the voice, the name, the big sweating man in a too tight jacket into the same sentence and failed. You're what? Amanda, he repeated, almost shy now. From the game. From the emails. My real name is Arnold, but online I'm Amanda. I drove a long way to see you. I felt my stomach drop in this slow, sinking way, like an elevator going down too fast. I suddenly remembered all the weird time zone stuff, all the talk about surveillance, the refusal to send a picture, the time she'd slipped and written, when I was your age instead of at our age. Before I could slam the door, my dad came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. W.R.S. Das? Who is that? Arnold leaned forward. I could hear his breathing, fast and wet. I love your son, he announced like it was good news. We're lovers. I came to get him. Everything after that came in fragments. Dad's face going from confusion to anger, like someone flipped a switch. Arnold babbling in the doorway about our emails, how he'd waited until he was ready. The squeak of his shoes on the cheap hallway linoleum as he tried to step inside, and my dad blocking him with one hand. Me pressed against the wall, heart racing, realizing this man knew my full name, my city, my school from tiny details I'd given Amanda. Dad's voice, low and dangerous, saying if Arnold didn't leave he'd regret it. Arnold tried to say we were meant to be. He kept using the word destiny. Then someone must have called the police, because 10 minutes later there were officers in the stairwell, asking questions in calm, practiced voices. They checked my computer. They asked if he'd sent me pictures, if I'd sent anything explicit. I hadn't. It had all been emotional manipulation and lies, but nothing they could list neatly as a crime. In the end they told him to leave, warned him not to come back. He walked down the stairs slowly, looking up at me like a disappointed boyfriend in a bad film. The next day, all his accounts were gone. The email bounced. The forum profile deleted. Any trace of Amanda evaporated. I still play MMOs sometimes. I still post on forums. But now, when someone says they're a 17-year-old girl from somewhere in the US, I picture a sweating, middle-aged man in a too-tight jacket outside my door, saying my name like it belongs to him. And then I log off. I always feel like I have to start this part with a disclaimer, like I'm sitting where you are and you've got your little notepad out. I know how it sounds when I say, I gave a murderer a ride to the police station. But I didn't know that then. Back then I was just lonely. I was 30, working night shifts as a nurse in Sao Paulo, permanently exhausted, permanently smelling like disinfectant and cheap coffee. I just crawled out of a 4-year relationship that I was sure was going to end in a wedding. Instead, it ended with him saying, "Neo está pronto," I'm not ready, and me finding out 2 weeks later he was not ready with a girl from his gym. After that, it was just me, my cat, and the sound of sirens and moto taxis outside my window at 2 a.m. I joined the dating site on a night shift. The ICU monitors were beeping, my patients were sleeping, and I was sitting at the nurse's station with my cracked phone, scrolling through profiles of men who all looked the same. Sunglasses, fishing photos, no drama in their bios. One guy had written "No Harry Potter fans," and I almost threw my phone in the trash. Then I saw Dan. Our messages turned into late-night conversations. He sent voice notes instead of long texts, which I liked. His voice was warm, a bit rough, with a soft Sao Paulo accent. He told me he used to play in a band that almost got big. He sang one of their songs into the mic for me at 1 a.m. once, whispering so he wouldn't wake the neighbors. He told me he worked at an animal clinic now, staying overnight with the animals who needed monitoring. I imagined him with bandaged dogs and shaved, sleepy cats, and it made my heart tilt. Every time an ambulance went past on his side of the call, he went quiet for a second. "You okay?" I'd ask. He'd laugh it off. "So neo gasto de sirene," he said. "I just don't like sirens." He mentioned a wife once. "I had a wife," he said, like the words tasted bad. Things got complicated. "Divorcio?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Divorce? Más o menos." "Yeah, more or less." I didn't push. Partly because I know what it's like when people prod at wounds, and partly because I liked him too much and didn't want to break the spell. We talked for a couple of weeks before he suggested coffee. Neutral territory, middle of the afternoon, a cafe near Paulista. It felt safe. Busy. Bright. I told 3 different friends where I'd be and sent them his picture, like a responsible modern woman. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the corner by the window. He looked exactly like his photos. Same hair, same band shirt under an open flannel, same half-smile when he saw me. I felt this ridiculous wave of relief that he wasn't a 50-year-old uncle type. "Oi," he said, standing up, giving me this tentative hug that smelled like cheap cologne and something faintly metallic underneath. "Você ainda mais bonita pessoalmente. You're even prettier in person." The date was good. Easy. He made me laugh. He knew obscure bands I liked. He talked about working nights at the clinic, how he'd sleep with a big old dog's head on his lap so it wouldn't cry. Every once in a while, a police car would pass outside and his eyes would flick to the window, his shoulders tensing so briefly that if I hadn't been staring at him, I might have missed it. That's one of those things I only really noticed later. Timestamp it, if you want. Red flag number 1. After almost 3 hours, I glanced at the time and said I should probably get home and sleep before my shift. The sky outside was that ugly Sao Paulo gray, heavy with smog. "I had a really good time," I said, meaning it. "We should do this again." He smiled, then looked down, suddenly shy in a way he hadn't been all afternoon. "Posso te pedir un favor?" he asked. "Can I ask you a favor?" "Claro," I said automatically. "Of course." I don't have a car right now," he said, rubbing his thumb over his palm. I remember now how calloused his fingers looked. Guitarist's hands, I thought then. "Do you think you could give me a ride somewhere? It's not far." At the time, it felt like a sweet vulnerability. Red flag number 2, I guess. "Sem problema," I told him. "No problem. Onde você precisa ir?" "Where do you need to go?" He gave directions as we drove. "Turn left here, straight for a few blocks, right at the pharmacy." The air was heavy and sticky, my windows starting to fog slightly at the edges. He didn't talk as much now. When I tried to circle back to his ex, to the complicated more or less divorce, he went quiet. "It was my fault," he said finally, watching the road ahead. "Everything that happened. It was my fault." I thought he meant cheating, or drinking, or something boring and human. We hit a red light. A police car went screaming past, lights flashing. His whole body flinched. Red flag number 3. "Você tá bem?" I asked. "You okay?" "Vou ficar," he said. "I will be." He told me to turn again, onto a street I knew. At the end of it was the Policia Civil Station, this ugly concrete building with barred windows and a faded Brazilian flag hanging limply in the damp air. "Here," he said softly. "Pode entrar ali. Pull in there." I laughed, this weak little sound. "Haha, very funny, what? Am I dropping you off at work? You're a secret cop now." He didn't laugh. "Por favor," he said. "Please." So I pulled into the parking lot. Put the car in park. My heart was starting to climb up into my throat. He sat there for a second, hands on his knees, breathing slowly like someone about to get an injection. "You're a really lovely woman," he said, still looking straight ahead. "Você merece algum bom de verdade. You deserve someone good, really." "Okay," I said, trying to smile, trying to make this normal again. "You sound like you're about to break up with me, and we only had one coffee." He smiled, but didn't look at me. "I didn't want you to find out on the news," he said. "Or from the police, calling you later. I wanted to say leave you with something normal. A good afternoon." "Find out what?" I asked. My voice sounded very small in the hot, fogging car. He swallowed. I saw the scar on his right hand then, just below the thumb, pale and jagged like something that hadn't healed right. "I'm going to go inside," he said, "and tell them I killed my wife." For a second, the words didn't mean anything. Just sounds. Then they did. Mas você disse. "But you said." "I said I had a wife," he interrupted gently. It wasn't a lie. Panic surged up, hot and cold at the same time. My hand found the door handle, without me telling it to. Why did you meet me then?" I asked. My voice shook. "Why?" He finally turned and looked at me. His eyes were calm, almost soft. "Because I wanted to remember what it felt like to be normal, just for a few hours," he said. "To talk about music and stupid movies and dogs. To sit across from someone who doesn't look at me like I'm a monster. So isso. Just that." Then he opened his door. The humid air rushed in. "Don't wait," he added. "Go home. Please." He stepped out, closed the door carefully, and walked toward the station entrance with his head up, like he was just going in to renew a document. I sat there frozen, watching through the windshield as he talked to the officer at the front desk. WTF. I was 16, freshly upgraded from awkward GCSE goblin to awkward A-level goblin, when my friend decided I needed a love life. "He's really nice, I swear," she said. "He's older, like 19, into anime and games and all that. Totally your type." Already a red flag, but okay. We exchanged numbers and texted for one evening. One evening. It was all standard semi-blind date stuff. What school, what subjects, what shows, what console war you'd die on a hill for. He seemed fine. Bit try-hard, but so is every boy whose personality is 70% Reddit. We agreed to meet at Starbucks in town the next day. Neutral ground. Plenty of witnesses. Lots of sugar if it went badly. I got there early because 1, anxiety, and 2, I didn't want him to feel like he had to buy my drink. I'm Asian and female, the guilt comes pre-installed. So I ordered my own coffee, picked a small table, and sat with my back to the door, reading a book while I waited. He texted, asterisk here, smiley face asterisk. I texted back, cool, I'm at the table near the window, black top, glasses. I felt someone behind me. You know that feeling when your brain goes, there is a person in your aura. I started to turn my head to say hello like a normal human being. I did not get that far. Before I could even get out a hi, his mouth latched onto my neck. Not like a peck or a clumsy kiss. Full suction, like he was trying to open a Capri Sun with his face. Loud, wet, aggressive sucking. On my neck. Out of nowhere. I absolutely do not like people touching my neck at the best of times. I'm ticklish, and it makes me feel weird and trapped. Having a stranger's mouth suddenly glued to it. My lizard brain went DEFCON 1. I made this horrible half-yelp, half-squeak noise and instinctively elbowed backward as hard as I could. I felt my elbow hit something soft and bony, his chest, and he finally unlatched. I turned around, heart hammering, and saw him properly for the first time. Cameron. He looked like his photos, sort of. Same face, just greasier. His hair hung in his eyes like it hadn't seen shampoo since the last Olympics. And the smell. God. Imagine dust, old sweat, and cupboards your mum never opens. Like if Musty was a person. He stared at me with this weird expression, half smug, half confused that I wasn't swooning. What the hell was that? I snapped, hand on my neck, feeling how hot the skin was already. He laughed. But it wasn't like a normal laugh. It was flat and deadpan, like he was imitating a laugh he'd heard once on YouTube. Thought it'd be cute, he said. Cute. Right. I tried to breathe. You can't just suck on people before they've even said hello. I said, trying not to shriek because, British, Asian upbringing. Don't make a scene, don't embarrass anyone, die quietly inside instead. He dropped into the seat opposite me like nothing was wrong. His eyes traveled immediately down and just stayed there. I followed his gaze. Chest. He was staring at my chest. Not even trying to be subtle. Wow, he said, eyes still fixed on my boobs. I didn't know Asians could have boobs like those. He said it like he'd discovered a new species. An exciting scientific find. My cheeks burned, not in the cute romantic way, in the I want to crawl into a bin and push myself into traffic way. Please don't say that, I said stiffly. He finally dragged his gaze up to my face and grinned. Nah, seriously. I'd better not let you go in it. It was like talking to a parody account. Anime t-shirt, patchy beard, breath of the dead, and now he's racially fetishizing me in a Starbucks while my neck throbs. I tried to salvage some normality. So, how was your journey? I asked, because apparently my brain's survival instinct is small talk. He gave some vague answer, then immediately leaned forward again, eyes dropping back down like broken magnets. You look even better than in your pics, he said. Like proper thick. My parents would lose it if I brought you home. Okay, I said, standing up so fast my chair scraped. I'm just going to the loo. I practically speed walked to the toilets, locked myself in a cubicle, and pressed my back against the door, shaking. I could still feel the phantom pressure of his mouth on my neck, like a dirty brand. I stared at myself in the mirror for a moment. Brown girl, eyeliner, cute top, lipstick already slightly smudged, red patch blooming on my neck like a crime scene. A tiny part of me worried my mum would see it and think I'd done it on purpose. I didn't want to go back out there. Every cell in my body voted no. Just then, another woman came out of a stall. Late 20s, maybe, tired eyes, work lanyard still around her neck. She washed her hands next to me. You okay, love? She asked. And because the dam was cracked, I just told her. Quick and quiet. I'm on a first date and he attacked my neck the second he walked in, and he's being super creepy, and I don't want him to follow me home. She blinked once, then her face went hard in that older sister way. Right, she said. Do you want to get out the back? Yes, I said, probably too fast. She rummaged in her bag, pulled out a knitted hat and a chunky scarf. Here, put these on. There's a staff door at the back that leads to the side alley. I'll tell them you felt sick and left. I could have hugged her. I shoved the hat over my hair, wrapped the scarf up over my mouth and down to cover my neck. It scratched a bit, but honestly, bless it. She led me through the little corridor by the toilets, past some boxes and a fridge, and opened the back door. Cold air hit my face. Stay safe, yeah, she said. And block that Muppet. I will, I said. Thank you. Like seriously. I slipped out into the alley, walked quickly around the block and headed straight for the bus stop, heart still thudding like I'd just robbed the place. On the ride home, my phone buzzed. I finally looked. Cameron, where did you go, babe? Face with tears of joy. Cameron, you shy or SMTH LOL. Cameron, I'm sorry if I was too forward, princess. I just really like you. 3 missed calls. A couple more messages, all hearts and clingy baby talk, like we hadn't met for 10 seconds, and he hadn't latched onto my jugular like a horny vampire. I blocked him. Then I messaged my friend, do not ever set me up again. Also never say my name around Cameron. Ever. I'm 30, not 19. I have a job, a rent that makes me cry, and a decent collection of bad date stories. I didn't think I had any rookie mistakes left in me. Then I met the underwear collector. We matched on Bumble. Me, 30, marketing manager in a mid-sized US city. Him, 41, finance. Which could mean anything from, I wear suits to I sell knives out of a trunk. His photos were normal enough. Gym selfie, hiking pic, one with a dog that may or may not have been his. We texted for 2 weeks. Actual conversations, not just WYD. He was funny in a dad joke way, called me witty and refreshing. We graduated to phone calls at night, where he talked about his favorite movies and how dating at his age was just people using each other. I made a point, more than once, of saying I don't sleep with people on the first date. Not a moral rule, so much as a safety system for myself. That's totally fine, he said. I respect that. I really just want to get to know you. So I believed him. He picked a brewery near his place. That should have been my first red flag. Near his place. But I told myself I was overthinking. When I arrived, he was already at the bar, waving me over. He looked like his photos, give or take 10 pounds and a little less hair. Not a troll. Not a model. Just a guy. The date was good. Annoyingly good. Conversation flowed. We joked about work horror stories, swapped family drama. He kept steering things back to his life, his exes, his breakup, how crazy the last one was, but I let it slide. I'm glad you actually showed up, he said at one point. A lot of girls flake. Yeah, well, I'm old-fashioned, I joked. If I say I'll go somewhere, I actually go. Good girl, he said, smiling. I laughed it off. Little comments like that, you file away. You don't throw out the whole evening over one good girl. Right? After 2 beers, me, and 3 him, he suggested going back to his place to watch a movie. I hesitated. You remember what I said about not having sex on the first date? He smiled, reassuring. Of course. We don't have to do anything you don't want to. I just live 5 minutes away, and this bar closes early. We can literally just watch a movie. The annoying thing is, part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me also didn't want to be the girl who assumes all men are predators. So I went. His apartment was in one of those newish buildings, gray walls, stainless steel appliances, big windows. It was sparse. Sofa, TV, glass coffee table. No clutter, no piles of laundry, no dishes. Not a single personal photo anywhere. It felt like a short-term rental someone had moved into and then forgotten to decorate. Nice place, I said automatically. Thanks, he said. Ex used to call it a showroom. She left some stuff behind, actually. Girls always do. He smirked at that, like it was charming. I didn't know it then, but that was foreshadowing. We sat on the couch. He put something on Netflix, then immediately turned toward me instead. The second the opening credits started, he was on me. Hands in my hair, mouth on mine, the whole thing going from we just sat down to we're making out in about half a heartbeat. It wasn't the kissing that bothered me. It was the urgency. Like he'd hit play on a script in his head, and we were already on page 10. Let's go to my room, he said, voice low. It wasn't really a question. I froze for half a second. This is where I should have said no. Instead, every social conditioning file in my brain. Don't be a tease. Don't be rude. You did come here, flipped open at once. Okay, I heard myself say. My stomach dropped. His bedroom was as bare as the living room. Big bed, nightstand, dim lamp. No art, no clutter. On the dresser, I caught a glimpse of a half-open drawer, neatly folded women's underwear in different colors, different sizes. My brain registered it, then shoved it into the deal with later folder, which was a mistake. We started having sex, and it was like a switch flipped in him. Out came the cringe phrases, one after another, like he'd been saving them up. Yeah, that's my good girl. Who's my princess? Whose body is this, huh? Whose heavily implied is this? Not yours, I thought. Absolutely not yours. Out loud, I said nothing. I focused on breathing, on counting tiles on the ceiling, on planning how long I had to stay before it wouldn't seem weird to leave. At one point, he leaned down and murmured, "You know I'm not going to let you leave, right?" I laughed, too high-pitched. "Ha, funny." "I'm serious," he said, tone darkening for a second. Then he smiled again, like it was a joke. "You're too good. I'm keeping you." My heart was pounding. Every nerve in my body screamed to get up and go, but he was on top of me, and I was trying to keep my face neutral, my voice light. Performative consent is a hell of a drug. Then he said it. "I'm keeping these," he whispered, fingers sliding along the waistband of my underwear. "You're not getting them back." "I need them back," I said. "I like these." He grinned. "You're not leaving with them. I always keep something. A souvenir. There's nothing you can do about it." My stomach turned. I thought of that drawer, of other women's souvenirs folded in neat rows like trophies. "I'm taking them," I said, voice flat. Inside, I was already strategizing. Where are my clothes? Where's my bag? Where are the shoes? How fast can I get out the door? He kept talking through the whole thing, about how amazing I was, how I didn't know it yet, how he was claiming me. Babyish pet names in a voice that didn't match his eyes at all. His eyes were cold, measuring. As soon as it was over, I rolled away and sat up. My hands were shaking a little, but I tried to keep it casual. "I have to go," I said. "Early morning." "Nah, stay," he said, still naked, lounging back like he was in a cologne ad. "We can cuddle." "You can leave those," he added, nodding toward my underwear on the floor. I picked them up and started putting them on. "Nope," I said. "Taking them." He watched me, smiling. "You're not," he said softly. "You think you are, but you're not. I'm gonna keep them. You can't do anything." That was the moment the fear crystallized. Not the sex, not even the "I won't let you leave" line, but a grown man looking me in the eye naked in his apartment and calmly telling me I couldn't leave with my own clothes. I finished dressing anyway. "Watch me," I said, forcing my voice steady. He stayed on the bed, not even reaching for his phone, not covering himself, just watching. Like this was all part of the fun. I grabbed my bag, my shoes, my coat. My keys were in my hands before I even hit the hallway. I half expected him to follow, to block the door, to grab my wrist. He didn't. He just called after me in that sing-song voice. "Text me when you get home, princess. Don't forget. I'm keeping you." I walked fast all the way to my car, lock button pressed 3 times just to hear the beep. Once I was inside with the doors locked, I sat there in the dark, breathing hard, feeling this sluggish mix of disgust, shame, and delayed terror. I found the website because I was bored and stupid at 12:03 a.m. Insomnia again. I'd already scrolled past the end of Instagram, read the same 3 news stories twice, and watched a raccoon steal a slice of pizza behind my building. My brain was buzzing and empty at the same time. Then I remembered something my friend Mark had told me months before, half drunk and laughing. "There's this cursed dating site," he'd said. "You can only access it for 7 minutes after midnight, and it's just for monsters. Like, you literally date monsters. It's probably just some ARG, but it's hilarious." At the time, I'd rolled my eyes. So I typed the URL he'd mentioned. It loaded. The site looked like it had crawled out of the early 2000s. Chunky scroll bars, neon buttons, low-res images of top creatures in demand. A werewolf that looked like a guy in a Party City costume, a girl with plastic vampire fangs, someone with badly photoshopped horns. Very funny. Haha. When I tried to screenshot it, nothing happened. That prickled. There was a randomize button at the top with a little warning. For the truly adventurous. I hovered over it, rolled my eyes at myself, and clicked. The screen went black. I was just about to close the tab and run a virus scan when text appeared in white letters. Alex Hawthorne. Wednesday, 1 p.m. Location below. Below it was a photo of the park 5 blocks from my apartment. Same cracked path, same warped bench where old guys play chess in summer. Underneath, in smaller text, "We look forward to your date." My full name. My park. I shut the laptop and sat there in the dark, heart thudding. I ran the virus scan. Changed some passwords. Drank water. Told myself I'd ignore it. I did not ignore it. All morning at work, overnight shunts you into weird day-night limbo when you're off. My brain circled back to 1 p.m. in the park like a dog to a loose tooth. By 12:45, I was walking to the park. It was cold and bright, that washed-out winter sun we get here in Toronto, where everything looks a bit overexposed. Kids on the playground, someone walking a dog that did not want to be walked, the usual. He was under the lamppost by the entrance. Tall, in a long wool coat that would have looked at home in some old European detective movie. Salt and pepper hair slicked back, black leather gloves. His eyes were very bright blue. The lower half of his face was covered by a gray cloth veil, tied behind his head and anchored with a thin gold chain. It wasn't dramatic, just wrong, like a bandage someone forgot to take off. "Alex," he said when I got close enough. Not asked. Stated. "Yeah," I said. My voice came out thinner than I liked. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a single rose, held it out to me. "I am Poppy," he said. "Thank you for meeting me." I stared at the rose, then at him, then at the fact that other people in the park seemed muffled somehow. Distant, like someone had turned the volume down everywhere but here. "This is a joke, right?" I said. "Like you're a guy in a mask and there's a hidden camera somewhere and I win a gift card if I don't run away?" "You may leave," he said mildly, "but the site will send others until you complete a date. It is persistent." I believed him. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way he said others, like he was remembering them. Maybe it was the way my skin prickled when he looked at me. "Fine," I said, because apparently my survival instinct is sarcastic. "What constitutes a date for you exactly? Dinner and a movie?" "Food," he said. "Conversation. A conclusion. Very normal." He sounded almost apologetic. "Come. I will buy you lunch." He walked me to the row of fast food places across from the park. He stopped outside and handed me money, crisp bills more than enough. "I cannot go inside," he said. "Choose whatever you like. I do not eat human food." "Because you're a vampire," I said deadpan. He tilted his head. "Because I eat worries," he said. "The causes of them. Monkey's paw, as you say." I went in, bought something, came back out. He hadn't moved. We sat at a picnic table near the police station, which felt symbolic. "So," I said, poking a fry, "you eat worries." "Yes," he said. "For example, if you are worried about failing an exam, I might remove the exam. If you are worried about your daughter's grades," he let it hang. He didn't have to finish. "Great," I said. "So you're like an anxiety hitman." He laughed, a soft, old-fashioned sound. "That is one way of putting it." We talked. Or rather, I tried to keep it light, and he kept steering it gently into deep water. He spoke like an old-world gentleman, formal, precise, never raising his voice. After a while, he said, "You do not remember me." My stomach went cold. "We've met. When you were a child," he said. "You asked for my help. With your father." My brain pushed against something. A memory like a door I'd put a couch in front of. "He used your arms as an ashtray," Poppy said quietly. "And worse things on your little sister." The marks faded. The memories mostly I took. From her entirely. From you partially. You said you wanted to remember enough to beware, in case he returned. My mouth went dry. My arms started to ache, phantom pain burning under the skin. I could almost smell the cigarettes, the cheap beer, the sweat. My sister crying in the next room. My own voice, small, asking something in the dark. "What did I ask you to do?" I whispered. "Take away the worry," he said. "Take away him." He folded his gloved hands. "At the time, you were a child. I decided prison was enough. Now, after many years, that worry is returning. He is to be released soon. Or he will escape. It is very untidy, the paperwork." My head spun. "How do you know that?" "I see worries," he said simply. "Potential futures. Yours is loud." We sat there in silence for a moment. The park felt too bright, the air too thin. A bus went by, but the sound was muted, like it was underwater. "So you're here to finish the job?" I asked. My voice came out almost casual. "I am here because you already asked me to long ago," he said. I postponed. Children sometimes change their minds about killing their parents. Adults less so. A short, bitter laugh escaped me. "Yeah. No. Not changing my mind." He nodded, eyes crinkling in something like approval. "Does the thought of him out of prison worry you?" he asked very gently. The door in my head swung open. Flashes, his hand on my arm, forcing it still. The smell of burnt skin. My sister's small body curled into mine at night. My mother's silence. Poppy's voice once before in the dark, be sure. There is no going back. Yes, I said. It worries me a lot. I felt something lift off my chest as soon as I said it, like admitting it was the trigger he'd been waiting for. He stood. Then I will eat this worry, he said. You will not see me again. I stood too, more out of politeness than anything. That's it? No contract? No signing in blood? He seemed amused. You already paid me, he said. In cigarettes and tears years ago. He stepped closer, very slowly, giving me time to back away. I didn't. He lifted a gloved hand and touched my forehead through the veil, just a brief, cool pressure. I believe you were curious once about what is under this, he said, touching the cloth. You did not like it. You do not need to see it again. Fair enough, I said. My voice shook, but I was still trying for humor. Mystery is sexy. Goodbye, Alex, he said. Live less afraid. He turned and walked away. I'd just gotten out of a 4-year relationship, the kind where you start finishing each other's sentences and sharing Netflix passwords and trauma. When it ended, my friends gave me the same advice in different fonts. Get back out there. Download the apps. You're a catch, man, you'll be fine. So I made a profile. I'm a nurse, night shifts, too much coffee, a back that already sounds like bubble wrap. So I put up a couple of pictures that didn't involve scrubs or 4 poles and tried to sound vaguely interesting. That's how I met Daisy. She lived about an hour away in another part of the city. Her photos looked like they came off a skincare ad. Perfect hair, big blue eyes, soft smile. She messaged first, which felt like winning something, and we started talking. She was good at it. Not the usual WID and 3 emojis. She asked about my work, how I handled stress, what I did to regulate after shift. She sounded like an Instagram therapist, lots of holding space and honoring your feelings. It was kind of nice, honestly. After a couple of weeks, we made plans to meet halfway at a little bar and taco place she suggested. The date started out great. She walked in wearing this floaty dress and boots, smelling like vanilla and something floral, and my brain did that dumb little jig it hasn't done since college. Conversation flowed. She laughed at my bad jokes, asked follow-ups, touched my arm at all the right beats. An hour in, she dropped it. So, she said, sipping her drink, I should tell you, I have a baby boy. I'm really looking for someone who can be a father figure for him. It was like a record scratch in my brain. I don't hate kids. I take care of them at work when I'm floated to pediatrics. But being someone's father figure? I could barely commit to a houseplant. I told her, as gently as I could, that I wasn't in a place where I felt comfortable being around a child in that way. She laughed it off. You'd be surprised, she said. The right woman can bring that out in you. I tried to mold my ex into the perfect man, but he was too resistant to change. Men can be like clay, you know? You just have to know how to shape them. Toxic siren blaring in the distance. I smiled and changed the subject. It was easier than arguing. We stayed till almost 11. When we finally went outside, I walked toward my car feeling pleasantly tired, like, okay, maybe this whole dating thing won't be so bad. Then I saw it. Headlight smashed. Front tire slashed. Passenger window shattered, glass all over the seat. Nothing missing, wallet in the glove compartment, gym bag in the back. Just damage, like someone had taken everything they couldn't say and aimed it at my car. My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone to call a tow company, heart thudding, trying to calculate how much this was going to cost me. Hey, someone called. Is that your car? I turned. Daisy in her car, rolling down her window looking shocked. Oh my God, she said, pulling into the lot. What happened? I stammered something about vandalism, about having no idea. She got out, inspected the car with this concerned frown, then looked at me with big sympathetic eyes. You can't stay out here alone, she said, and you're not paying for some creepy tow guy to leave you stranded. Come back to my place. We'll figure it out in the morning. I'll drive you home after. Every instinct twitched. But Uber was surging, it was late, I was rattled, and she was right there offering a solution, all warm and helpful. I told myself I was being paranoid and said yes. Her apartment was immaculate. Not just tidy, curated. Throw blankets folded just so, candles arranged by height, plants that should have been dead thriving on windowsills. The air smelled like lavender and something powdery, like baby lotion. But there was no babysitter. No extra pair of shoes by the door. No toys on the floor. Where's your son? I asked. She waved a hand. He's such a good sleeper. I don't like other people in our space, she said. He doesn't need a sitter if I'm close. I sat stiffly on the couch while she put on a movie I wasn't really watching. On the shelves, I noticed framed photos, her at the beach, her in a park, her on a couch. In each one, there was a little scribble in marker next to her, the outline of a child crudely drawn in, smiley face, stick arms. You want to meet him? She asked suddenly. Who? I said, even though I knew. My baby, she said, smiling. He'll love you. Before I could formulate a real response, she slipped down the hall into a bedroom and came back cradling a bundle wrapped in a blue blanket, cooing softly. Come say hi, she said. I stood up, legs weirdly heavy, and stepped closer. She tilted the bundle toward me. Go on, she said. Say hello. I reached out and with 2 fingers peeled the blanket back. It wasn't a child. It was a porcelain doll. Filthy, cracked porcelain. One glass I rolled back, the other missing entirely. The skin, once pale, stained gray-black, lined spiderwebbing across its face. Its little painted mouth was chipped open, and in the hollow something moved. A fat roach, antennae twitching, crawled lazily out of the mouth and back in, like it lived there. I jerked back. Daisy didn't even flinch. She smiled down at it with genuine affection and kissed its cracked forehead. Isn't he beautiful? She murmured. Mama's boy. He's been so excited to meet you. My brain just stalled. All my training for emergency situations, for trauma, just vanished. I muttered something about needing the bathroom and practically stumbled down the hall. I locked the door, turned the tap on to have some noise, and just stared at my reflection. My face was pale, pupils blown wide. This was insane. This was actually insane. Then I heard it. A sound under the running water. Soft, ragged crying. Not a baby. A grown man, trying not to scream. I turned the tap off. The crying got clearer. A choked, desperate, help please. Every instinct screamed don't. But I opened the bathroom door anyway. The sound was coming from a closet at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, a strip of yellow light spilling out. My feet carried me toward it before my brain caught up. Hello, I whispered. Help me, a voice gasped from inside. Oh God, please, please. I'm in so much pain. I pushed the door open. The smell hit first. Rot, infection, old sweat, and disinfectant failing to cover it. Inside, on the floor, was a man. Or what was left of one. He was a torso. No arms, no legs. Wrapped in stained bandages and medical tape, tubes running into what remained of his side. Flies crawled along the edges of dirty gauze. His skin was waxy and gray, slick with sweat. He looked up at me with wild, bloodshot eyes. Help me, he sobbed, chest heaving. Please. She. Sweetie? Daisy's voice, floating down the hall, sing-song and close. What are you doing? She called. You're taking too long. The baby is getting fussy. The torso man's eyes went huge. Don't let her, he started. I slammed the closet door shut. Bathroom. I yelled, heart in my throat. Sorry, I'm coming. Footsteps on the hardwood, getting closer. I had 2 options, stand there and wait for her, or move. I moved. I bolted down the hall, past her. She was standing by the living room with the doll in her arms, head tilted, smile too wide. Where are you going? She asked, voice still syrupy. Our baby needs you, you can't just... I shoulder-checked past her, yanked the front door open and ran. I did not want to download Kinder. Yes, Kinder. Like Tinder, but with a different letter and somehow worse vibes. My friend Mark swore by it. Dude, it's for people who want like actual connection, he said, shoving his phone in my face. Less swiping, more feelings. Great, I said. Can it also erase the last 2 years of my life with Mara? He stared at me. You've been single for 6 months, and you still talk like you got dumped yesterday. Download the app. So I did. I'm Jason, 28, West Coast tech guy, which basically means I get paid to stare at screens and slowly ruin my spine. My self-esteem after the breakup was somewhere around the Mariana Trench. Kinder looked like every other dating app, if every other dating app had been designed by a committee that only used beige. Same profile setup, same endless scrolling, same bios about hiking and tacos and fluent in sarcasm. The only weird thing was the EULA, pages and pages of dense text with phrases like data sharing across realms, and by continuing you consent to energetic exchange. I scrolled until my eyes glazed, clicked accept, and hoped it wasn't signing my soul away. Most of my matches fizzled after 2 messages. Mark tried to coach me. Stop opening with, hey, how's it going? he said. Use a cheesy pickup line. Girls love that. What, like, are you from Tennessee? He shook his head. No, I already used that one. Get your own. So I googled cringe pickup lines and picked one vaguely tolerable. Are you made of copper and tellurium? Because you're Ciute. I started using it. Shockingly, it did not transform my love life. Then I matched with Jessica. Her profile looked fake. Like magazine cover fake. Long dark hair, eyes that should have come with a warning label, body straight out of a music video. And she matched with me, a man whose last photo was him eating nachos. Suyer. I sent the copper/tellurium line out of habit, fully expecting it to vanish into the void. She replied instantly. That's actually cute, she wrote. Thanks, Jason winking face. She used my name. I hadn't told her my name. I mean, okay, the app shows it, but still. Something about it made my stomach flip. We started talking. A lot. She replied fast, always seemed to be online. She laughed at my memes, asked about my job, my favorite childhood cartoon, my relationship with my parents. It felt easy. Too easy. That's when the dream started. Every night, the same dream. I was in a house I didn't recognize. Dim hallway, cheap beige carpet, framed photos on the walls with the faces blurred out. Jessica waited for me at the end of the hall, in black lingerie, and that same soft smile from her profile. Hey, you made it, she'd say, taking my hand. Her skin was cool, not cold. She'd lead me slowly toward a bedroom, talking about nothing, music, movies, little in-jokes from our chats. At the doorway, she'd turn, lean in, and just as I stepped over the threshold, my alarm would go off. Every single time. At first it was kind of funny. I even told Mark. Wow, you're down bad, he said. You're simping in your sleep. But each night, the dream added details. A stain on the hallway carpet. A picture frame hanging slightly crooked. A chipped piece of baseboard by the bedroom door. Things I wouldn't have invented on purpose. Things that felt remembered. Dream Jessica also started lining up perfectly with Chat Jessica. Same laugh, same phrases. One night, she repeated a joke in my dream that she'd only made in our DMs earlier that day. You're in my head. I told her over text once, half joking. I like it there, she replied. It's cozy. We finally set a date. Saturday, 8 p.m. at her place. She sent the address. My heart did a weird lurch seeing the street name, like I'd read it before. On Saturday, I drove over, palms sweaty on the steering wheel. Her neighborhood was boring suburbia, identical houses, trimmed lawns, the faint hum of televisions behind curtains. I parked, got out, and looked up at her house. It was the house from my dreams. Same beige siding. Same 3 steps up to the front door. Same narrow window with cheap white blinds. When she opened the door, she was wearing the exact same black lingerie set from my dream, under an open robe. Hey, she said, smiling like we'd done this 100 times. You made it. Deja vu slammed into me so hard I felt dizzy. My brain went, of course you made it, you always make it, this is where the alarm goes off. Except it didn't. I walked inside. The hallway was the same too, same stain on the carpet, same crooked picture frame. The faces in the photos were somehow blurred, like badly censored screenshots. You okay? Jessica asked, reaching for my hand. Yeah, I lied. Just long drive. She led me down the hall, talking about the restaurant she liked, the neighbor's annoying dog, whatever. Her timing was perfect, the same beats as the dream. At the bedroom door, she turned, leaned in, kissed me. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear. Come on, she whispered. We'll be more comfortable in here. She stepped backward into the room, tugging me along. My foot caught the edge of the rug by the bed, and I stumbled, dropping to one knee. That put me at eye level with the space under the mattress. There were bodies under the bed. Dozens of them. Small, shriveled, colorless. Skin like dried paper stretched over bone. Faces trapped somewhere between a scream and a collapse, mouths open, eyes sunken into empty sockets. Clothing in ruined scraps, shirts, jeans, a hoodie with a logo I recognized from the mirror, a tech company I'd interviewed with last year. In one desiccated hand, a phone. The screen was still on, impossibly. Kinder's interface glowed faintly. New match, Jessica. I made a sound. Not a scream, exactly. Just this high, broken exhale. Jessica's hand tightened on my shoulder, fingers digging in with surprising strength. Don't worry, she said softly, voice warm, almost maternal. You won't feel it for long. Kinder is very kind. I tried to move. My limbs suddenly felt thick and slow, like I'd been awake for 3 days straight. The room smelled sweet and rotten underneath the perfume, like flowers left too long in a vase. "You've been such a good match," she whispered. "I've been feeding on you for weeks. All those dreams." She laughed gently. "You really thought they were yours?" My vision tunneled. Under the bed, one of the corpse's jaws twitched. The sockets where its eyes had been seemed to tilt toward me, accusing. Small-town dating in New Zealand is limited. You've basically got guys you went to school with, guys your mates already dated, and guys who still think jandals count as dress shoes. After my last relationship ended in spectacular flames, my friends convinced me to try Plenty of Fish. "It's not that bad," they said. "Lots of normal blokes," they said. To be fair, the first wave of messages were mostly normal, in that deeply depressing way. "Hey, you up? Nice boobs, hun." A few offers for NSA fun winky face, from dudes posing with dead fish. I ignored most of it. Then one guy messaged who seemed okay. He lived about an hour away in a bigger town. His photos were boring but normal. Him at the beach, him at a barbecue, no swastika tattoos or dead deer in sight. His messages had punctuation, which at that point was practically husband material. We chatted for about a week. Work, music, the usual, what do you do for fun when there's nothing to do rural talk. Eventually he said, "We should grab a coffee sometime." "Yeah, maybe," I replied. I told him I didn't have my own car, so I'd have to borrow my mum's to drive out and meet him. He said, "Nah, I'll pick you up." I said no. I don't like strangers knowing where I live, and being trapped in a car with a first date sounded like a bad horror movie. "I'll just meet you at a cafe," I typed. "Halfway or something." That's when the tone shifted. "Come on," he wrote. "You don't trust me?" "I don't know you," I answered. Light with a smiley. "Just feel better meeting there." A few minutes passed. Then he sent the message that made everything in me go cold. "Well, your town's not that big," he wrote. "If I knocked on a few doors, someone would tell me where you live, winky face." I stared at it for a long second. Something about the wink made it worse. "That's kinda creepy," I replied. "Please don't say stuff like that." He did not take that well. The next message came in fast. "Are you serious?" New notification. "You think I'm some psycho?" Another. "You know I have a gun, right?" I was sitting at the kitchen table. Mum was making a cuppa behind me, kettle boiling, TV murmuring in the lounge. Normal night. And on my phone, this stranger was casually typing. "I could shoot you and dump you and no one would ever look for you." My hands went numb. He kept going. "You're nothing. You think anyone would care if you disappeared? I know where your hometown is. I could come down there any time. I could throw you down a well and you'd never be found." His spelling got worse as he went on, like his hands were shaking or he was drunk. Long run-on sentences describing exactly how he could kill me, how easy it would be, how girls like you think you're so special. I didn't reply. I just watched the messages keep popping up while my mum clinked mugs behind me, asking if I wanted one. "Yeah," I croaked, locking my phone. "Tea's good." I took my drink to my room, shut the door, and read them all again. Every line sank in a little deeper. My town is small. Everyone knows everyone. They used to feel safe. Suddenly it felt like a weakness. He didn't even need my address. Just a name, a loose description, a willingness to knock. I blocked him on the spot. Reported his profile to Plenty of Fish, wrote something like, "Sends death threats." Then I deleted my account. The little, "Are you sure you want to leave?" box popped up. Yes. I was sure. For the next few weeks, I jumped every time a car slowed near our driveway. If I saw an unfamiliar Uda in town, my heart started racing. I'd picture some pissed-off man behind the wheel, rehearsing his speech about how I led him on. Every knock at the door made me flinch, just for a second, imagining his face on the other side of the ranch slider. He never came, as far as I know. Maybe my report got him banned. Maybe he moved on to someone else to scare. Maybe it was all drunk talk, and he never had a gun in the first place. Doesn't really matter. To the guy who threatened to shoot me, dump my body, and bragged that no one would miss me because I wouldn't let you pick me up for a coffee. Let's not meet. Ever. For context, we live in a fairly quiet Scandinavian city. Trams, parks, ugly winter boots, polite neighbors. The sort of place where you feel safe walking home alone at 2 a.m. with headphones in and a grocery bag swinging off your wrist. We are rational people here. We recycle, we trust public transport, we believe in talking things through. She, let's call her Lena, is exactly that kind of person. Very sensible, very don't be dramatic, it'll be fine. She'd been single for a while, got talked into downloading Tinder, and eventually matched with a guy from another city a couple of hours away. He seemed normal enough at first. His profile had pictures of him hiking, smiling with friends, one of those obligatory me with a beer by a lake photos. They texted for a few weeks. His messages were oddly formal, like emails almost, but Lena just thought he was a bit old-fashioned. Hello Lena, how are you this evening? I hope your workday has been productive. I very much look forward to finally meeting you. That kind of thing. Slightly stiff, but polite. He suggested coming to her city for their first meeting. Instead of a hotel or hostel, he hinted, and then not so subtly pushed, that he could stay at her place. I don't mind the couch, he wrote. It will be cozy. Also safer and cheaper than a hotel, I think. She told him no. First date, no overnight guest. But she did agree he could visit, and that they could see how the evening went. He arrived one Friday afternoon in the winter, when it's already dark by 3 p.m. Lena's building is one of those concrete blocks with a shared stairwell that always smells faintly of boiled potatoes and laundry detergent. She met him outside. He looked like his pictures, maybe a little more tired, a bit hollow around the eyes, but recognizably the same man. They went for a walk, grabbed a beer at a bar nearby, came back to her apartment and cooked pasta. On the surface, it was fine. He was friendly, laughed at her jokes, told stories about his job. But Lena said there was something off, like an undercurrent. He had this way of pausing too long before responding, like he was studying her. His jokes were always a few degrees too dark. When she mentioned a true crime podcast she liked, he leaned forward, eyes a little too bright. I like those too, he said. It's interesting how easy it can be. To just do something, and no one ever knows. He laughed. She did a polite little laugh too, but filed that one away. At one point, they were sitting on the sofa, and he complimented her body. That's not unusual on a date, but the way he did it was. You have nice breasts, he said in that same formal tone. They would be even more impressive if you were maybe 90 kilos heavier. Imagine the weight. It would be very hot. She thought he was joking. Then she saw he wasn't. His eyes had gone distant, like he was picturing it. There was this hungry, fascinated look that she couldn't quite place. Suddenly she became very aware of her own body, of how much space it did or didn't take up on the couch. She changed the subject. He let her, but kept glancing down like he was seeing something that wasn't there. It got late. She started dropping the usual hints, yawning, saying she had to get up early, tidying up glasses. He ignored all of them. I could stay, he suggested. The couch is fine. I don't want to go back to the station yet. It is cold. It is lonely. She told him no again, more firmly this time. She offered to walk him to the tram instead. He dragged his feet, made a point of looking disappointed, but eventually left, saying he'd message when he got home. Half an hour later, there was a knock on her door. She said her stomach dropped before she even opened it. Somehow she knew. It was him. He stood there with this sheepish smile and said he'd missed his train. The next one is very late. I will be so tired. Could I please sleep on your couch? Only this once. I don't want to go back out into the cold. She hesitated. It was late. The idea of sending him back out and him wandering around the city gave her secondhand guilt. Besides, she told herself she was being paranoid. He hadn't actually done anything. He lived hours away. What was he going to do? Murder her and then drag her down 4 flights of stairs? It felt too ridiculous to say out loud. So she said yes. You can sleep on the couch, she said, but I'm going to bed. I have to work tomorrow. Blankets are in the cupboard. Bathroom is there. Good night. She wasn't an idiot. She went straight to her bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. Normally she never locked it. That night she did. She changed, climbed into bed, lay there staring at the ceiling. At first she heard the normal sounds. Water running in the bathroom, his footsteps padding back and forth as he settled on the couch. Then the sounds changed. There was a sharp metallic rustle. Then another, like someone unrolling something crinkly. The soft rip of tape. More rustling. It went on, and on. She checked her phone. 1:43, 2:12, 2:37. Every so often the noises paused. She would think, finally, he's gone to sleep, and then the sound started up again. Crinkle, crinkle, tape, pause. Sometimes she thought she heard him muttering under his breath, but the walls muffled the words. At one point, there was a soft knock on her bedroom door. Lena? He sounded strained. Can you help me with something? Every instinct in her body screamed no. Her heart was pounding so hard she was afraid he would hear it through the door. She lay perfectly still and held her breath. The knock came again, a little louder. "Lena? Please? I need help." Still she said nothing. Eventually, after what felt like hours but was probably minutes, she heard him sigh, a strange, deflated sound. His footsteps retreated. The rustling began again. She didn't sleep. She dozed in short, jagged snatches, jerking awake every time the apartment creaked. Morning came in the gray-blue Scandinavian way, light seeping around the edges of the blinds. The flat was silent. No footsteps, no pipes, nothing. She waited, listened. Finally, she unlocked her bedroom door. The living room was empty. The couch was neatly arranged, blanket folded. His jacket was gone, his shoes gone. The front door was locked from the inside. No note. No message. She almost convinced herself she had exaggerated the night noises. That maybe he'd just been restless, had left early for the train. It wasn't until she went to the bathroom to brush her teeth that she realized what he had been doing. The entire bathroom was covered in aluminum foil. Every wall. The sink. The toilet tank and lid. The outside of the bathtub. The light switch. The radiator. Carefully, obsessively wrapped. Even the mirror had been taped over, layer upon layer, until it reflected nothing but fractured slivers of silver. What the F had I walked into? I was 20 when this happened, and brand new to the app. I'd just moved into a small 4-unit apartment building with my roommate Sarah. It was my first time living away from my parents, and I felt very adult and very stupid at the same time. I matched with this guy named Zach. He said he was 22, lived about 30 minutes away, liked anime and video games. His profile picture was him in a hoodie, dark hair, kinda cute in a soft boy way. We talked about our favorite shows, swapped memes, and he didn't say anything gross or pushy, which in Tinder terms practically makes you husband material. After a few days of chatting, he asked if he could pick me up for a proper date. This is the part where, looking back, I want to reach through time and slap my own phone out of my hand. "Sure," I wrote. "I live at address. You can just text me when you're here." I didn't think twice. He felt safe because he liked the same stuff I did. He used lots of LOLs and smiley faces. You forget that someone can type like a harmless nerd and still be something else completely. The day of the date, I spent the morning doing the usual. Shaving, stressing about what to wear, changing my outfit 3 times, pacing around the tiny living room while Sarah watched me with that look only a best friend can give. "You told him to meet you here?" she asked. "Yeah. Why?" I tried to sound casual. She shrugged, lips pressed together. "I just don't love some random dude knowing where you live straight away. But whatever, I'll be here." That made me feel a little better. The building's front door was kept locked. You needed a key to get in, so I told Zach to text when he arrived and I'd come down. About 30 minutes before he was due, Sarah and I were on the couch, half watching some trashy show. Through the front window we saw 2 cars pull up in front of the building. Old, dusty sedans, paint peeling, engines too loud. 3 guys got out of the first one. They were not what I expected. They weren't 20-something gamer boys. They looked around 40, maybe older. Sunburnt, rough faces, ball caps, big work boots, stained jeans. The kind of men you see leaning against trucks outside gas stations, smoking cheap cigarettes. They had that slow, heavy way of walking like they'd been on their feet all day. "That must be for someone else," I said quickly. "There's other tenants here." Sarah made a low humming noise. I could tell she wasn't convinced. A minute later, there was a loud, insistent banging on the main front door of the building. Not a polite knock, not a doorbell, just fist on wood, over and over. Our building is small. The sound echoed down the stairwell. I hesitated. My first thought, honestly, was what if it's a delivery or something? That's how deep the don't be rude thing goes. "I'll just see who it is," I told Sarah. She started to say something, but I was already out in the hallway, going down the stairs. I opened the inside door that led to the glass outer door. Through it, I could see them up close now. 3 men, standing side by side, looking in at me. The smell hit first, cigarettes and gasoline and sweat, all mixed together. One of them had mud caked up his boots halfway to his calves. The middle one, who I'd later start thinking of as the one in charge, had this crooked grin that never quite reached his eyes. "Yes?" I asked, voice small but polite. I kept my hand on the door, like that would do anything. "We're here for my full name," the middle one said. My stomach dropped. "That's me," I said like an idiot. "Can I help you?" His grin widened. "Oh yeah," he said slow. "You look just like your pictures." He let his eyes drag over me in a way that made my skin crawl. I suddenly became very aware that I was standing there in jeans and a cute top, hair done, makeup on, looking like I'd dressed up specifically for them. Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're friends of Zach," he said. He jerked his thumb at the second car, which was parked a little further down the street, partly behind a tree. "He's in the car. We're here to pick you up for your date." I leaned a bit to the side, trying to see past them. The windows on that second car were tinted just dark enough that from where I stood, I couldn't make out a face. Just my own reflection and the shape of someone in the driver's seat. "Maybe. If Zach wants me to come out," I said, forcing a smile, "he can come to the door himself." The guy on the right snorted. "He's shy," he said. "Don't be difficult, girl. We came all this way." Something in me finally started screaming loud enough to cut through the southernness. "I'm not going anywhere until I see him," I said. "So if he wants to go on a date, he can come up here." The middle one's eyes hardened, just for a second. Then the man on the right stepped closer, so close his breath fogged the glass. He looked me up and down slowly. "You don't want to ride with him, you can ride with me instead," he said, and I swear he winked. "Or both of us. We don't mind sharing." My hand tightened on the door. "No. Thank you," I managed. "I'm not going anywhere." I started to close the door. Before it could shut, the one on the right shoved his boot into the gap, sole grinding against the frame. The movement was fast and violent enough to make the glass rattle. I froze. "If you won't expletive me," he said, leaning in, voice lowering, "then expletive my buddies at least." He jerked his head toward the tree-hidden car like it was a punchline. The grin he gave me was all teeth and no warmth. The hallway felt very small suddenly. The nice southern girl in my head who says, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, sir," was replaced by something cold and sharp. "Move your foot," I said quietly. "Now." He opened his mouth to say something else. And then a hand grabbed the back of my shirt and yanked me backwards so hard I almost fell. It was Sarah. She slammed the inner door shut and twisted the lock before I'd even caught my balance. The boot thumped against the other side, then started kicking. "Are you insane?" she hissed at me, dragging me back toward our apartment. "Get inside." We ran down the hallway into our place. She locked our door, then put the chain on for good measure. The banging upstairs stopped a few seconds later. Either they realized they weren't getting in, or they didn't want an audience. Sarah went straight for her phone and called the police, voice level and calm in a way I absolutely was not. I just stood there shaking, listening to her explain that 3 strange men had come to our building looking for me, that one of them had tried to force the door, that they were claiming to be here on behalf of a guy I'd met on Tinder. We peeked out the living room window, crouching low so they couldn't see us. After a few minutes, the men came back into view. They were laughing, smoking, talking in that too loud way men do when they're trying to show off. Then they got into their cars and drove away. We watched as they passed by the second car, and I realized there was no one else in it. No Zach. No shy nerd in a hoodie. Just the 3 of them. I graduated into a pandemic, which is every millennial's favorite nightmare scenario. May 2020, instead of walking across a stage, I walked from my childhood bedroom to the living room and waved at my relatives on Zoom, while my mom cried into a plastic champagne flute. A week later, I packed my college stuff into cardboard boxes and moved back into my parents' house in a small Midwestern town that smells like cut grass, gasoline, and nostalgia. I was lonely. I mean, everyone was lonely, but I was also suddenly single, job hunting online, and back in the bedroom with the high school trophies still on the shelf. So I did what a lot of US did. I downloaded Bumble. I told myself it was just for fun. I wrote a profile that was basically a personality quiz. Books, podcasts, politics, blue. Very blue, some dorky photos with my dog. I swiped half-heartedly between Zoom interviews and baking attempts. Most matches fizzled after 2 messages. A few conversations were decent. One guy immediately asked if I was cool with guns, and I unmatched so fast I almost gave my thumb whiplash. Then I matched with him. I'm going to call him Jay. He was from another town in my state, not far. His profile picture was a familiar Midwest blend. Baseball cap, hoodie, half smile. He worked some kind of hourly job. His prompts were generic, but normal enough. We exchanged a handful of messages on Bumble, hometown, hobbies. How are you doing with all this COVID stuff? He asked for my Snapchat. I've always been pretty relaxed about socials, so I gave it. Then we added each other on Instagram too, because apparently my brain forgot what boundaries are. On Snap he was weird. Not run away and burn your phone, weird, just slightly off. His selfies always had captions like another day of BS, and everyone's asleep, only the real ones are awake, with the eyeball emoji. He sent a couple memes about sheeple watching fake news that I mentally rolled my eyes at and ignored. I chalked it up to pandemic brain and boredom. The conversation died naturally after a few days. I wasn't feeling it, I stopped replying, he didn't push. I moved on to obsessing about my LinkedIn instead of my love life. Months passed. Then the election ramped up, and my Instagram stories turned into a predictable feed of Black Lives Matter posts, mutual aid links, and please vote graphics. I posted one of those little "I voted for Biden/Harris" selfies with my sticker, because of course I did. That's when he came back. I still remember the exact moment. I was lying on my bed in the half-dark, doom scrolling, when my phone buzzed and the top of the screen lit up with his username. 1, 2, 3 notifications in a row. Then more. And more. I opened Instagram DMs and felt my stomach drop. There was a long wall of text. Not a paragraph. A wall. "You're smarter than this," it started. "I thought you were a critical thinker. Biden is a puppet. You've been brainwashed by the media. Trump is the only one telling the truth." That alone would have been annoying, but manageable. What followed was unhinged. He sent link after link to YouTube videos, articles from websites I'd never heard of, screenshots of tweets, images with red circles and arrows. He wrote about how COVID was a plan, about satanic Democrats, about globalists and pedophile rings. He told me he goes hard on people because he cares, that most people block him for telling the truth. There was this self-pitying tone that rubbed against his aggression in a way that made my skin crawl. Every time I saw the one new message, it jumped to 5, then 12, and I watched his voice spin out in real time. "You're better than this. I can't believe you'd support a man like that. Do you even research anything? You're a good person, you're just misguided. Promise me you'll watch these videos. Promise." I didn't respond. At all. I just watched the numbers tick up, helplessly fascinated and deeply uncomfortable, like rubbernecking a car crash. Eventually, after 40+ messages, his tone started to shift. It was like he realized he was shouting into a void and tried to reel it back. "Sorry if I came on too strong, lol. I'm just passionate. I don't want you to hate me. Here's a meme to lighten things up, face with tears of joy." The memes were so painfully out of place, low-res reaction images about liberals and snowflakes, jammed in between paragraphs about Civil War and the Second Amendment. The dissonance made my brain feel static. Why? I stared at the screen for a long time. My conflict-avoidant, Midwestern brain wanted to send something like, "Hey, I respect your opinion, but let's just not talk politics." Then another part of my brain, the one that has read way too much about online harassment, whispered, "He thinks this is a debate. If you answer, you're participating." So I didn't write back. I opened the messages so he'd see seen, on every single one, then I quietly unfollowed him. I muted his stories. I left the DM thread there like a jar with a spider under it. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications that weren't actually new messages. Every line in our chat now read, "This message has been unsent by the sender." Over and over and over. A blank field with a ghost timeline. He had gone through and unsent every single thing he'd written. That somehow felt even creepier, like he'd come into my room and carefully erased his footprints. It also meant if anything else happened, I wouldn't have proof. Except, I'm anxious and slightly paranoid, and I had screen recorded the conversation the night before to send to my best friend because I'd needed someone else to see it and say, "No, you're not overreacting, this is creepy." So I still had it. All of it. Saved in my photos between pictures of my dog and sourdough bread. I sent the video to my friend with a long, overthought message about how maybe it was just politics and maybe he was just intense and maybe I was being unfair. She replied, "Nope, that's scary as hell. Block him." So I did. On everything. Then I tried to forget about it. I didn't think about him again for a while. Life moved on in that sluggish pandemic way. Days melting together, job applications, walks around the neighborhood with my mask in my pocket, just in case. Weeks later, I was on Facebook, procrastinating again, when I saw a local news station article shared into my feed. "Man, 26, killed after shooting 87-year-old woman in apartment complex," the headline read. "Local resident returns fire." I almost kept scrolling. Headlines like that blur together. Then my eyes snagged on the town name. His town. I clicked. The story was short. An 87-year-old woman, living in an apartment complex, shot and killed with a semi-automatic rifle. The shooter had allegedly tried to force other residents out of their apartments as well, until one of them retrieved a firearm and shot him, stopping the rampage. Police arriving at the scene found both the woman and the shooter dead. There was a picture of him. It took my brain a second to bridge the gap between the pixelated profile photos I remembered and the mugshot-style headshot in the article. His hair was a little shorter, his face more drawn, eyes harder, but it was him. Same name, same town, same age. I was 21, on exchange from Chile, and still in that phase where every metro ride felt like a movie and every baguette felt like a personality trait. One Friday night, I decided to go to a language exchange event alone. My roommate bailed, but I'd already done my eyeliner, and I'm not wasting good eyeliner for Netflix. At the door, they gave me 2 little flag stickers. I slapped the Chilean one right in the middle of my shirt, like, "Hi, yes, we exist." Inside, it was packed, sticky floors, warm beer smell, people shouting in 5 different languages. I joined a group chatting in English. It was actually fun, until a group of French guys drifted over. They were very, how do I say this nicely, discount brand street boys. One of them pointed at my flag. "C'est quoi, c'est?" "Chile," I said. Blank stare. "Ah, in Africa?" His friend snickered. I smiled. "No, South America." "Maybe it's a city in Spain," another added. "Near Barcelona, non?" They laughed like this was peak comedy. In my head, I was cursing them out in Spanish. Out loud, I just said, "Yeah, okay," and moved away before my Latina came out and I started a diplomatic incident. I ended up at the bar next to an older guy, maybe late 30s. Boring but normal, talked about travel, studies, the usual. When he left, I was about to finish my drink and head home. That's when he appeared. He slid into the space next to me like he'd been waiting. Mid-20s, dark hair, slightly greasy, heavy coat. He looked at my flag and smiled. "I knew immediately where your flag was from," he said in very careful English. "Congratulations," I said. "You passed geography." "You are very beautiful," he added, without even pretending to build up to it. I gave the polite thanks and turned back to my drink. But he didn't move. He started asking questions, where I lived, who I lived with, why I was in Paris. When I answered vaguely, he'd repeat the question slower, like I was stupid, not evasive. Then, out of nowhere, "I am in love with you." I laughed. "You don't even know me." He didn't laugh. His eyes locked on mine. "I am serious. I am in love with you. I want to do romantic things with you." The phrase sounded like he'd learned it from a phrase book. It landed wrong, cold. "I'm not interested," I said. "I'm gay. I have a girlfriend." He tilted his head, almost pitying. "It is not your fault. You think you are like this now. But I can show you romantic things. We can marry. Have children. You will see. Je ne suis pas intéressé. Laisse-moi tranquille," I tried in French. "Not interested. Leave me alone." He smiled, but his eyes stayed flat. "You are scared of love," he said quietly. "I am not dangerous. I love you. Why are you scared?" "Because you sound like a broken NPC," I thought. "Because you're saying romantic things like it's an exorcism." I tried to drift back to other people, but he followed, hovering just behind my shoulder. Every time I turned, there he was. Finally, I'd had enough. I grabbed my coat and headed for the exit. As soon as I got outside into the cold air, I heard his footsteps behind me. "I will walk you," he said. "It is not safe for you alone." "I'm taking the metro," I snapped. "I'll be fine." "I also take the metro," he replied. "We go together." "Perfect." I spotted another guy leaving the bar, walking toward the metro sign. Normal looking, alone. I made a fast decision, walked straight up to him and said, loud and cheerful, "Hey, you're going to the metro, right? I'll walk with you." He blinked, then looked past me at the man tailing us. His expression changed. "Oui," he said. "Of course." We went down into the station. It was one of those older ones, yellowing tiles, damp cold in the air. Normally you can change directions down on the platforms, but there were construction signs everywhere. No crossover, pick your side up top. My accidental bodyguard was going the opposite direction from me. If I followed him, I'd have to take the wrong train. If I didn't, I'd be alone with Mr. Romantic Things. "Bon courage," the guy said softly. "Good luck." Then he disappeared down his stairs. For a second, it was quiet. Then I heard it, his footsteps on the escalator behind me. "There you are," he called, sounding relieved. "I was afraid I lost you. Come, we wait together. We can speak of our future, our romantic things." My skin crawled. I looked at the turnstiles, at my card, at the red/green light. If I scanned again too soon, it might not work. Behind me, his footsteps drew closer. I didn't think. I shoved my bag under the bar, sucked in my stomach, and slid under the turnstile, scraping my ribs on metal. Someone yelled. I didn't stop. Down the stairs, the train was just pulling in. As the doors opened with that little chime, I glanced up. He was on the bridge above the tracks, looking down, face pale in the fluorescent light. I want to grow old with you, he shouted. Give me your number. We can do romantic things. 2 women on the platform waved me over quickly. Viens, one said. Come. I stepped into the carriage backward, keeping my eyes on him until the doors closed and the train jerked forward, swallowing his voice. That night, lying in my tiny room, I kept hearing his careful English in my head. Not, I want you. Not, I like you. I want to do romantic things with you. Over and over. Like a curse I'd narrowly escaped. I don't go on a lot of dates, but when I do, I treat them like a minor military operation. Public place only. Tell at least one person where I'm going. Share my live location. Park somewhere busy and well lit, close to the venue. It sounds dramatic until you've listened to as many true crime podcasts as I have. Once you've heard she thought it would be fine, it was only one drink, enough times, you start carrying your keys like a weapon and memorizing exits for fun. This guy, let's call him Dan, was from a dating app. On paper, he looked fine. Mid-30s, lived in the same city, had a job that sounded real, not entrepreneur or crypto. He messaged in full sentences, didn't ask for nudes, didn't open with anything feral. That's sadly a high bar already. When we started talking about meeting up, he immediately suggested I come over to his place. We could watch a movie and have a few drinks, smiling face with smiling eyes. I replied, I don't go to guys' houses on the first date, sorry. Happy to meet somewhere public though. He seemed to accept that. For about 5 minutes. Or we could start at mine, then go out after? You'd feel comfortable once you're here. I'm a good cook, we could eat and watch Netflix. I repeated more bluntly. Not happening. If that's what you want, we can just leave it. He backpedaled quickly. No, cafe is fine. Where do you want to go? I picked a cafe I knew well, one of those places in an inner suburb where the coffee is good, the music is loud enough, and there are always people around. It's connected to a bar on one side, but it's mostly families, students, and people in gym gear pretending they earned their brunch. On the day, I got there a few minutes early and parked in a busy side street. I did my usual texts. To my sister, date at cafe name, 2 p.m. If I'm not back later, I've either eloped or been murdered, will update. Location sharing on. He turned up in a little 2-door car, which I clocked automatically. 2 doors. That little detail went in the mental file. He walked ahead into the cafe, so I followed and introduced myself. He looked like his photos, which was a pleasant surprise. Normal clothes, decent haircut, no obvious serial killer vibes. Yet, I ordered a Coke. He looked at me like I'd just kicked a puppy. You don't want a drink? I was going to pop into the bar and get one, he said, gesturing at the connected bar. Nah, I'm not drinking, I said. I'm on meds, alcohol's not a great idea. I'd actually already told him this in messages. Twice. He stared at me for a second, disappointed. Not like, shame, but like I'd broken an unspoken contract. You can have one, can't you? He pushed. Just loosen up a bit. I smiled, that tight customer service smile I use at work. Nope. Coke is fine. He made a face like I'd ordered a glass of poison, then went to get his cider from the bar while I grabbed a table. We sat down. The opening conversation was fine. Where do you work? Where did you grow up? The usual script. Except he didn't ask many follow-up questions. When I answered, he'd just nod and then pivot back to himself. I noticed he kept glancing at the exit, then at his watch, then at the bar. Not obsessively, just enough to register as weird. After about 5 minutes of small talk, he dropped it again. So we could just finish these and go back to mine, he said casually. I've got food, we can eat there. I laughed lightly. We were going to eat here, remember? I'm good just staying. He leaned back, looking almost offended. I've got plenty of food at my house. It makes more sense to go there. We'll be more comfortable. It didn't make sense. That was the problem. I live closer to the cafe than he does. Both our cars are here. There's literally no logical reason to drive 20 minutes to his house to eat when there is food right here. We don't have to eat, I said, shrugging. We can just finish the drinks and call it. His jaw tightened. I have money, he said defensively. I just prefer my place. Something about the way he said that stuck with me. Not I'd rather cook or I'm low on cash. Just my place. To cut the tension, I tried to make a joke. You're not a serial killer, right? I said, smiling. Because this is exactly how every podcast starts. I expected him to laugh it off, roll his eyes, something. Instead, he went very still. Then, slowly, he locked eyes with me and said, completely serious, "You don't think I would hurt you, do you?" Every hair on the back of my neck stood up. I laughed, because that's what you do when you're a woman in public with a man who suddenly feels off. You laugh and say, "Of course not," even when your gut is doing cartwheels. "Of course not," I said lightly. "Just joking." Inside, I was going, okay. No, absolutely not. Abort mission. He took a long sip of his cider, still watching me over the rim of the glass. Then he put it down and leaned in a little. "Are you going to follow me in your car?" he asked. "Because that wouldn't make sense." "Wait. What? In what way does that not make sense?" I asked, eyebrows up. "How about we just go in my car?" he continued, as if he hadn't heard me. "I've got packages in the front, so you'll have to squeeze into the back. I'll drop you back to your car later." My brain did three things at once. Two-door car. No back doors. He wants me in the back seat, behind him, where I can't get out quickly. That is literally the least sensible option of all time. Out loud, I said, "That makes zero sense. It's easier if we each drive if we were going anywhere." Which we're not, because I'm not going to yours. He smiled, but his eyes went flat. "You don't trust me?" he asked. "No," I said before I could sugarcoat it. "I don't know you, and your insistence is giving me the creeps." The word creeps seemed to land like a slap. His face flickered, anger, surprise, something else, and he looked away. He mumbled something about needing the toilet and stood up abruptly. He didn't take his glass. Didn't say, "I'll be right back." Just turned and walked toward the back of the cafe. I watched him go, feeling my pulse pounding in my ears. I sat there for a good minute, staring at the melting ice in my Coke, rehearsing whether I should just leave and text him later with some excuse. The cafe around me went on as normal, kids whining about cake, milk frothing, cutlery clinking. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement through the front window. Dan, walking briskly across the pavement towards his car. Getting in. Starting it. Pulling away from the curb. No glance back. No wave. Just gone. He didn't go to the bathroom. He didn't say goodbye. He just bailed the second I called his behavior creepy, like he'd realized I wasn't going to play along. I sat there for another few minutes, letting my heart rate come back down, the adrenaline slowly burning off. Then I texted my sister. Date left. October 10th, would not recommend. Will explain later. I'm safe. Long story here, I apologize. About 8 months ago, Tinder date. She suggests brunch at Max's Wine Dive on McKinney. We're in Dallas. I pick her up at the Arpeggio Apartments in Victory Park. She's not ready, so she buzzes me in. Her apartment is beautiful, lots of high-dollar stuff, no roommate. We go to Max's at 1 p.m. She drinks an entire bottle of champagne by herself. We leave, and in the car she says she wants to stop by a shop in West Village. I park in the parking garage and get out. I look for her and don't see her. I hear a noise, so I look around my car and she's squatting next to the wall peeing on the ground. We go into the shop. She takes a few dresses into the changing room and tells me to come over. I stand outside the changing room and she pulls me inside. She completely undresses, gets in the clothes, asks me what I think, undresses, gets in more clothes, etc. She takes about $1,500 worth of clothes to the counter and tells the cashier she really has to pee. Cashier says sorry. My date begs, so cashier relents and takes her into the back, but it's too late. The damage is done. She also buys a new pair of pants. On the way back to her apartment, she answers a call and starts talking in a foreign language that I can't place. Couldn't even guess the continent. She's very nervous and upset. She hangs up and tells me she has to go to her other apartment at the Cirque, also in Victory Park. She asks me to go in with her. We go into her apartment, which is also completely beautiful and belongs only to her. She has a badass telescope that I start playing with. In the mirror, I see her open a safe and put something in her purse. She tells me we need to leave and asks me to take her to my house. We go to my house and she instantly passes out. Stays passed out for about 6 hours. Wakes up, wants Dairy Queen. It's closed and she starts crying. I take her to Sonic. She gets a cheeseburger, a chili dog, cheese fries, and a sundae. We come home, she eats it and throws up. Passes out on my couch. I read and go to sleep. Next morning she asks if she can stay and watch football. I tell her I have plans and need to take her home. She says she can't go to either of her apartments. I tell her too bad, I have plans, and drop her off at Cirque. She texted asking when we could see each other again, but I never responded. Dating in the modern world is a series of adventures, mishaps, and awkward moments, all wrapped in the hope of finding someone who makes the chaos worthwhile. Tinder, in particular, has a way of turning your expectations on their head. One minute you're swiping and chatting, imagining the fun you'll have, and the next, life throws you a curveball you didn't see coming. That's exactly what happened to me when I met this guy. Let's call him Tinder Guy. Not the most creative nickname, but it suits the story. We hit it off immediately after matching. He was funny, charming, and had this easygoing vibe that made him stand out from the usual Tinder crowd. Our first 2 dates were genuinely a lot of fun. I hadn't really been looking for anything serious, but with him, it felt like there was potential. We laughed a lot, had great conversations, and I felt comfortable around him, which isn't always the case on Tinder dates. By the time our 3rd date rolled around, I was pretty into him. Like really into him. I decided I wanted to take things to the next level. He planned the 3rd date, and it was perfect. He took me to this cute little Italian restaurant that had candles on the tables and dim lighting, the whole romantic setup. We shared a bottle of wine, split a tiramisu for dessert, and everything just felt right. I knew by the time we were halfway through the main course that I wanted to sleep with him that night. And honestly, I thought he might feel the same way. After dinner, he invited me back to his place for another glass of wine, and I didn't hesitate for a second. His apartment was nice, clean, cozy, and full of little personal touches that made it feel like more than just a bachelor pad. He poured us each a glass of red wine, and we settled onto his couch. The conversation flowed as easily as it had all night, and before long we were kissing. At first, it was great. He was a good kisser, and it felt natural, not forced or awkward. But then, the kissing just kept going. Fully clothed, making out on the couch, for what felt like an eternity. I'm not exaggerating when I say it lasted forever. At first, I was into it, but after a while, I started to wonder what was going on. We weren't teenagers at a high school party. We were 2 adults who had just come back from a romantic dinner. I was ready to move things forward, but he didn't seem to be getting the hint. After what felt like hours, but was probably more like 30 minutes, I decided to take matters into my own hands. If he wasn't going to make a move, I was. So I stood up, took a deep breath, and took off all of my clothes. Not in a dramatic way, but in a clear, okay, let's do this kind of way. I figured it would be enough to break the tension and let him know I was ready. Instead of reacting the way I expected, he sat up straight, still fully clothed, and looked at me with this serious, almost apologetic expression. I'll never forget what he said next. I can't have sex with you. I have an STD. Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. For a second, I didn't know how to respond. I was standing there completely naked, and he was just sitting there fully dressed, dropping this bombshell like it was nothing. It was, without a doubt, one of the most awkward moments of my life. I don't even remember what I said at first. Probably something like, "Oh, okay," because what else can you say in a situation like that? I sat back down on the couch and quickly started putting my clothes back on, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. My mind was racing. Part of me was mortified, but another part of me was grateful. I mean, he could have not told me. He could have gone through with it and let me find out later, which would have been a million times worse. The fact that he was upfront about it was, in hindsight, a good thing. But in the moment, it was just incredibly, painfully awkward. I tried to be nice about it. I really did. I told him I appreciated his honesty and that I wasn't upset, but it was clear that the night was over. The vibe had gone from romantic and exciting to uncomfortable and strange in a matter of seconds. I grabbed my bag, gave him a polite goodbye, and left his apartment as quickly as I could without making it seem like I was running away. The whole drive home, I replayed the night in my head, trying to figure out where it had all gone wrong. I mean, I couldn't exactly blame him. It wasn't his fault he had an STD, and I respected him for being honest about it. But I also couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. I'd been so excited for that night, and it had ended in the most awkward way imaginable. When I got home, I texted a couple of my friends to tell them what had happened, and their responses were a mix of shock, laughter, and relief. One of them said, "Well, at least he told you. That's more than a lot of guys would do." And she was right. As awkward as it had been, I was grateful that he'd been upfront with me. It could have gone a lot worse. I matched with a Mexican-American woman on Tinder named Isabel. She was absolutely stunning, with long dark hair, striking hazel eyes, you name it. Perfect, right? Hold on to that thought, please. We started chatting, and she was hilarious, effortlessly funny in a way that had me grinning at my phone like a fool. She told me she worked as a graphic designer, loved live music, and had a soft spot for dive bars with good margaritas. I was hooked. After a week of chatting, we decided to meet up at one of her favorite spots, a cozy bar with dim lighting, loud music, and a laid-back vibe. The night of the date, I was nervous but excited. When Isabel walked in, she looked even better in person, confident, stylish, and radiating that kind of energy that makes everyone in the room notice. We hugged, ordered drinks, and slid into a booth. From the start, we hit it off. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and she had this way of making me feel like I was the funniest guy in the world. We talked about everything, our favorite bands, bad movies we secretly loved, and the best tacos in the city. She told me a hilarious story about trying to teach her dog to skateboard, and I couldn't stop laughing. For a moment, I thought this might actually be going somewhere. But then, out of nowhere, the night took a turn. We were halfway through our second round of drinks when a guy stormed into the bar, his face twisted in anger. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and looked like he'd just walked off the set of a soap opera. His eyes scanned the room like he was searching for someone, and when they landed on Isabel, his expression darkened. "Isabel," he barked, his voice loud enough to cut through the music. I froze, my drink halfway to my mouth. Isabel stiffened, her smile vanishing. "Oh no," she muttered under her breath. Before I could ask what was going on, the guy stomped over to our booth, glaring at me like I'd just insulted his entire family. "Who the hell is this?" he demanded, jerking his thumb in my direction. "Carlos, what are you doing here?" Isabel said, her voice sharp but controlled. What are you doing here, me?" he shot back. "I saw your post on Instagram. You think you can just move on like that? With this guy?" He jabbed a finger at me, and I suddenly felt like I'd wandered into someone else's drama. "Look, man," I said, trying to stay calm. "I don't know what this is about, but maybe we should all just—" "Shut up," Carlos snapped, cutting me off. "This has nothing to do with you." At this point, people in the bar were starting to notice. The bartender was eyeing us warily, and I could feel the weight of everyone's stares. "Carlos, you need to leave," Isabel said firmly. "We're done, okay? This isn't your business anymore." "Oh, it's my business," he said, leaning closer to the table. His gaze flicked to me, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just replace me? After everything we went through?" "I'm not doing this with you," Isabel said, standing up. "Go home." Carlos ignored her, his anger now fully focused on me. "You think you're better than me?" he said, his voice rising. "You think you can just walk in and take what's mine?" "Okay, first of all," I said, standing up as well, "I'm not taking anything. You need to calm down. Big mistake." Carlos lunged at me, and before I knew it, we were nose to nose. For a second, I thought he was going to punch me, but the bartender intervened just in time. "Hey," the bartender shouted, stepping between us. "Take it outside or take it home. Either way, you're done here." Carlos glared at me one last time before turning to Isabel. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low and threatening. Then he stormed out of the bar, leaving a trail of tension in his wake. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and sat back down, my heart racing. Isabel looked mortified. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think he'd actually show up." "What the hell was that?" I asked, trying to process what had just happened. "That was my ex," she said, rubbing her temples. "We broke up a few months ago, but he's not handling it well." "No kidding," I said, glancing toward the door as if Carlos might come back at any second. "I thought he'd moved on," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't think he'd still be keeping tabs on me." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt bad for her. Clearly, she hadn't asked for this. But another part of me was wondering what kind of baggage I'd just stumbled into. "Maybe we should call it a night," I said finally. She nodded, looking genuinely upset. "Yeah, that's probably a good idea." I walked her to her car, constantly glancing over my shoulder to make sure Carlos wasn't lurking in the shadows. She apologized again, saying she understood if I didn't want to see her again. I told her to stay safe and drove home, still shaken by the whole ordeal. The next day, Isabel texted me to apologize again. She said she'd filed a restraining order against Carlos and promised that he wouldn't be a problem anymore.